Every character in the Dynasty Warriors games dies at some point. It could be brutal, it could be tragic, it could be hype, it could be awesome. But which characters from the Dynasty Warriors series died too early, and their impact that they could have potentially had if they had lived longer? That's what this list is going to be about. 10 characters that I feel like died a little too early. As we get to each number, I will explain why. It's not even a sense of how old the character was, but just the impact they could have potentially had for their kingdom or the history itself if they lived a little bit longer. With that being said, before jumping into the top 10, we got one honorable mention to talk about. This was a pretty tough list to make. Hopefully I don't miss anyone that you guys are thinking of. So starting off with our honorable mention, I have Mr. Pongda. Now Pongda was nearly 50 years old when he died, but I feel like if he had gotten past Fawn Castle, I feel like he would have been a greater threat for the western area for the Wei forces. Like, imagine if he was still alive after 220, being part of the early Zhuge Liang Northern campaigns and defending himself. I mean, him going toe-to-toe with Guan Yu and being able to injure him and push him back at the age that he was, it seemed like he was at his prime during that time. And I feel like him unfortunately getting caught in the flood, trying to save his men, getting captured, and then refusing to surrender and then being executed was a definite huge blow to Wei. But because he was a little older and he had quite a bit of time to like make an impact and stuff like that, he's not too significant, but I felt it was necessary for me to at least mention him, and that's why he's an honorable mention. With that being said, we're gonna go and jump into the top 10 here. Hope you guys enjoy it. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, coming in at number 10, we have...
To me has been entrusted the fate of Wu. I shall be victorious.
So Lu Meng coming in at number 10 for me. He was the last addition to my list because I totally forgot about him for a second. I probably am forgetting about some more people as we get to the end of the video. But Lu Meng, 42 years old when he passed away. He died from illness. Imagine if he was around longer. At that point in time, they could have used it. They lost so many people at that time. Lu Meng was pivotal for the reclaiming of Jing province and just the way he went about things, his tacticalness, his benevolent nature to his own troops and to his men. He was a great person to have, and Wu losing him so early after the critical battle of Fawn Castle, I think was a huge blow to him, because if he had lived 10 or 15 years more, I think he would have significantly impacted the Wu forces. And that's it. That's pretty much why he's here at number 10. Next up at number 9, we have...
I shall be the last one standing once the chaos has reached its conclusion.
Now, Sima Shi, again, similar kind of a thing to Pongda. He was a similar age to him. I think he was around 47 years old when he passed away. But it's mainly about his reign. So he only was the leader of the Wei forces for about 4 to 5 years, and then he would pass on. He didn't really get an opportunity to really showcase what he could have done. Some of the things he did were a bit impulsive and probably not the best choices. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise, because he might have gone maybe a little bit more tyrannical. Who knows? But just because he died so early, we don't ever get to see kind of how he would have ran things, except from the hypothetical perspective. Not saying that Sima Zhao didn't do a good job after him, but because of Sima Shi's early death, we just don't get to see what that would have entailed for the Wei Kingdom moving forward. He could have potentially made the Three Kingdoms come to a sooner end, but we'll just never know. Next up, coming in at number 8, we have...
Did you really think that would work against me? Do you even know who I am?
Now, Lu Bu is an interesting character. I don't think they know when he was born. They said sometime before 161. So when he died, he was either in his late 30s or early 40s, somewhere around there. But imagine if Lu Bu actually lived to, his 50s or 60s, and how that would have affected everything. What if he did join Cao Cao and continue to run? How would that have looked? You know what I mean? How would have Guan Du gone? It would have been interesting to see. Lu Bu staying around longer than he did in history would have been interesting to see what would have happened. Of course, his martial prowess is exaggerated for the novel, but he was still undeniably strong. Imagine him and Guan Yu on the same team fighting at Guan Du. I mean, that's just... Yuan Shao's gonna have a nightmare with that. They're gonna be racing to kill Yang Liang and Wen Chou. But it would just been interesting. It would be interesting to see what would have happened if Lu Bu lived longer. I know he was a nuisance at that time, so getting rid of him was a big plus. But it's always interesting to think about. Now, coming in at number 7, we have...
You would challenge me? Clearly, you don't know who you're up against.
I think Cao Pi is a clear choice for this list. Died at 40 years old. But again, similar to Sima Shi, he only had 5 to 6 years of being on the throne. He drastically changed the history. He's the one. He's the guy. Imagine what he could have done if he had lived 15, 20 more years. What would he have done? How ruthless would he have gotten? Would he have decimated Xu and Wu? I mean, who knows? I know he made an error in the choices that some of them made. Like, he should have attacked when Wu was at Yiling, because that would have been an easy kill for him. Trying to go right after when, Wu was ready. They weren't, they weren't going to easily buckle from that. So they'd easily defend off Cao Pi. And militarily, Cao Pi doesn't really get to show for much. But in terms of, the way that the land shifted, he affected it a ton. So it's just interesting to hypothesize on how Cao Pi would have affected it even more if he had lived. Again, all we can go off of is the hypotheticals in the games and how his personality is in the games. But other than that, we just don't know. And he's definitely a character who died really, really early. Next up, coming in at number 6, we have...
As long as I'm here, I'm afraid I just can't let you through.
Talk about a detriment to a force. Pang Tong losing his life at around 35 years old. The Battle of Yi Province, getting ambushed and killed. And imagine if he lived longer. He was there to help with the Battle of Hanzhong. He was there for the northern campaigns. I mean, again, he lives another 20, 25 years. He could have been there for all of that stuff to really boost up the strategy or the domestic affairs needed for the Shu kingdom and, help Zhuge Liang after Liu Bei passed. And it was the era of Zhuge. And he didn't really have many people to rely on. So Pang Tong getting an early death in, the history of the books and everything, it was definitely a huge blow to Shu because he might not have been the most prestigious strategist, but he was definitely a smart guy in order to acquire the prestige and the titles that he had and everything. So Pang Tong losing his life early, I think, hurt Shu a lot, and that's why he's here at number 6. Now, coming in at number 5, we have...
This looks like fun. I think I'm going to enjoy myself.
This was a tough one. I wrestled with Guo Jia's placement a lot. I had him up a little higher, but then I feel like the impact of the people above him impacted their kingdom a little bit harder than Guo Jia. But Guo Jia's impact on the Wei forces, Cao Cao's early rise is indescribable. If he lived past the time that there might not be a Three Kingdoms period, because Cao Cao is quoted to have said if he only had Guo Jia at Chirbi, how would that have gone? If Guo Jia would have lived to Hanzhong, Guo Jia versus Fa Zhang and Zhuge Liang, how would that have looked? That would have been crazy. I don't think Guo Jia really had a mano-a-mano battle with Zhuge Liang, because by the time Zhuge Liang had joined Liu Bei, Guo Jia was already gone, so we never even got to see that matchup. So the potential, the different things that just could have been launching out. But Guo Jia for me, I think is one of the easiest ones to see that he died so early, and his impact could have been easily felt if he had lived longer. And he's an easy choice for me at number 5. Now, coming in at number 4, we have...
The enemy general has fallen to my blade!
Very similar to Guo Jia. Zhou Yu having a similar impact to his kingdom versus Guo Jia. The only difference is that Zhou Yu was Wu's Zhuge Liang. He was carrying them. He was the one responsible for a lot. And him being struck early and dying relatively young as well was a huge blow to the Wu forces. Again, imagine if he lived longer. He lived to the Battle of Hefei. He lived to the battles of Shiting and Yiling and all that stuff. It would have been a crazily different battlefield just to see how things would have gone. He had such a huge influence on his kingdom, which is why he's here at 4 above Guo Jia, because I feel like Zhou Yu's loss to Wu is a much bigger blow than Guo Jia's loss to Wei, because Wei, they just had so many people that could fill that void. Not taking away from Guo Jia's uniqueness, but they had Xun You, Manchong, Jiashu, so many brilliant people. And I'm not saying that Wu didn't have that many after Zhou Yu, but Zhou Yu was the pinnacle of strategy for Wu, and losing him early was definitely a blow. Next up, coming in at number 3, we have...
It will be my pleasure to face you in glorious battle.
Definitely gonna see a theme here. Wu losing their people early is just part of their story, man. Sun Jian losing his life at the age of 37, 38, or late 30s, and the pinnacle, the origin of the Wu kingdom. Imagine if he was alive during the time of the conquering of the southern region, potentially the Battle of Chirbi. Maybe he's not directly involved with it, maybe he's just commanding from the sidelines, but his ferocity and what he was known for, I mean, being so young, going after bandits and hunting down pirates or whatever he was doing, that was audacious and bold and courageous, and he was doing it. Imagine that kind of energy with the Wu forces, with the Wu kingdom. He would have been a very, very serious threat to Cao Cao. Sun Jian didn't even really get a chance to own a piece of land by himself because he was under Yuan Shu when he died, and he didn't really have much choice. But yeah, Sun Jian, early leader, badass. I mean, it's a no-brainer that he should have been on this list. It's just imagining what Wu would have been like with him around longer would have been crazy. Next up, coming in at number 2, we have...
I am your opponent. I hope you are prepared to meet your end.
Fa Zhang definitely has to be on my list. This dude is the guy, he's the responsible for the only major victories for Liu Bei's forces. Imagine if he lived past Han Zhong. He was there for Yiling. He was there, I mean, Yiling might not even happen because Fa Zhang could have called Guan Yu back or seen it coming or something. And again, imagine the devastating battlefield that could have had Fa Zhang versus Lu Xun and them. It would have been an interesting tactical chess match. Fa Zhang against Sima Yi, that would have been super interesting. I mean, just thinking about that kind of dream match is interesting to think about. Fa Zhang was on another level of importance for the Shu kingdom, and him dying, quote unquote, so early for them was definitely a blow. All the characters from this time, they died around 50, 60 years old. Some of them got to 70, and for Fa Zhang to lose his life so early in Liu Bei's service was definitely a big blow. They still had Zhuge Liang, they still had someone to fall back on, but imagine if they still had Fa Zhang. Fa Zhang has the similar effect that Guo Jia has on the Wei forces. I think it was quoted, I think Zhuge Liang is the one that said if Fa Zhang was there for the Battle of Yiling, it would have either not happened or it wouldn't have happened the way it did. The devastating loss would have not happened if Fa Zhang was there. And that's why for me, he's taking the silver medal. And then finally coming in at number 1, we've got...
Did you think you could just sit around all day?
Should be an absolute no-brainer. He is the youngest person on the list to die. Like he's died the youngest out of everybody here, out of all the playable characters maybe as well, except for like Lu Lingqi, but she's like a fix. Anyway, Sun Tzu, 25 years old, after exploding onto the map, exploding onto the radars of every person during that time, and then his life gets tragically taken away after speeding to the top. It was just imagine Sun Tzu, he was only 25 in 200 AD. He could have easily lived to the Battle of Fan Castle. He could have potentially lived up to the Wuzhong Plains, the Hefei Castle, you know, just a lot of things he could have affected, and I wonder how that would have went. I believe it was said he was planning on attacking Xuchong while Cao Cao was away at Guandu. How would that have gone? Cao Cao might not even exist anymore if Sun Tzu had lived. He was that audacious, that gung-ho, ready to make a move on the land after consolidating the southern region, that he was just on fire. And the tragedy that would befall him, the biggest blow overall from a kingdom perspective. It's like if Wei lost Cao Cao that early. It's like if, you know, Liu Bei died that early. Huge, huge blow. Definitely a character, a person who could have changed the trajectory of history if he was still alive. And there's no doubt in my mind he would have. Just, you know, I know the games emphasize who he was, but I'm sure it's grounded in some pieces of his historical character and the way he just lightning quick took southeastern region. There's got to be some truth to that. So for me, without a doubt, Sun Tzu befalling his tragedy before the Wu Kingdom could really get off the ground is a huge blow, and it is the most impactful early death from the series. And that's all I have for the video here, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know down below if there's a character I missed. We can talk about it in the comment section. I went through every character and, you know, tried to think about, well, this character, did he die relatively early versus da-da-da-da? And this is the list that I came up with. But hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, definitely appreciate you guys dropping a like, comment, or sub. And with that being said, I will see you on the next one.